Hey guys, what's going on? So I am here with a pretty fun bike. I've actually had a pretty good time on it. This is called the Eahora Snow X6. It's a fun little bike. It's got kind of like these not quite fat tires, but they're kind of fat, plus size, I suppose. They're 3-inch wide tires. That actually makes a big difference on how it feels. Weight's low to the ground. It's got a full throttle, so it's been a ton of fun. So anyways, let's get into the mechanical details. I'm really excited to get on the ride and show you what it can do. All right, so the Eahora Snow X6 is a not quite fat tire folding electric bike, and it's got some pretty cool stuff on it. You can tell I've actually had it for a little bit of time. I took it out in the snow actually a little while ago, and I've taken it out in some rain, put it through a few of its paces, as well as doing some road, some off-road, having a lot of fun with it. So it's actually been quite the blast to take out. You can see that I've got it all dirty and everything. So one thing to note, the bike does not come with fenders. There is a mount right here if you wanted to put a fender right there. However, there's nothing to put on the downside, but nonetheless, this could be enough to clip on a fender if you wanted to get a little more protection from there, because as you can see, the dirt kind of flings up when you take it out in the snow, which I have done. But let's go ahead and talk about the mechanical specs. Some of my favorite parts about this bike are the mechanical specifications. In particular, I actually like these brakes. We'll start there. That's not a common thing for me to do. We'll start with the brakes. So these are actually a 180 millimeter disc with a hydraulic caliper. So these are hydraulic disc brakes from a company called Logan, and I gotta say that they do bite pretty well. Even when you're out in the snow, even when you're out in the mush and everything, these are some pretty good brakes. I'm a little jealous. My personal bike has some disc brakes on it, but I think these ones do a little bit better job of stopping, primarily because this is a little bit heavier of a bicycle. Despite the fact that it is a folding bike, which usually is kind of lightweight, has some pretty beefy equipment on it. It's got the battery, of course, the motor, the little bit wider tires. So this guy weighs in at 50.6 pounds. 8 pounds of that alone is the battery pack, which is right in the middle, good for weight balance. But I actually like the disc brakes because of that feature, because it's a little bit of a heavier bike, especially compared to its size. It's a little bit heavier than meets the eye, but it's been pretty fun nonetheless. I like that the bike does have a quick release right here for the front tire. It's actually pretty convenient if you need to take this guy off for any kind of maintenance or something. But these are a 20-inch tire, so that's the diameter there, 3 inches wide on this guy. And it does have kind of an off-road tread. You can see right here, has some knobbier parts in it, and it does work. I can tell you it does work in its intended purpose, and it's been a lot of fun. These wider tires are a lot of fun because they do access a lot of like the snow and the sand, but they also have some pretty good tread for the road. We're going to be riding on the road. I did take this on the snow. I'll put up some of that footage a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and continue. Coming up, the stem is a folding stem. It's a fairly standard issue there where you undo the latch and then that swings down. We'll get to the folding aspect in a little bit. Got a 570 millimeter wide handlebar up here with a little bit of a rise. That's probably about 30 millimeters of a rise right there. And I actually like the grips on this. The controls are pretty comfortable for a folding bike. It's fairly common to see a folding bike with everything just crammed in as tight as you can to make best use of the space that you have on the small handlebars. But in this case, I like these grips. They have the faux leather on them, the stitching, which is pretty comfortable, and the locking levers, or the locking rings rather, so they don't slide around a whole lot. So it's been pretty fun. I've actually kind of liked the controls a lot. This is the shifter for the Shimano Altus in the back. And also coming up to the top area, we've got the display. We'll cover that in a little bit. Got a mirrored set on the left side for the brake handles there. Nice big 4-finger levers, and of course the full grip on here. Since the throttle is on a ring, the throttle does not comprise a twist throttle, so these can match perfectly. You can change them if you totally want to. And yes, of course, the telescoping part to bring this up if you'd like to. By and large, I usually wind up riding a folding bike pretty low, where I put the handlebars low, I put the seat low, and I put myself low as a result. I do that mostly because I like having the center of gravity lower. Helps me get into some sticky situations and get out of them in particular. So continuing on down the bicycle from the controls, the stem. This is the main tube. I guess you could call it the top tube or the down tube. I presume it's more top tube if anything, but inside of here is the battery pack, and the reason I bring that up now is because all of the cabling is coming through on the bottom, so you don't have any internally routed cables on the frame. It's all zip tied to the frame. That actually makes it really easy if you need to service the bike, piece of cake. But it doesn't have that clean look if you wanted to get that. And I understand, because I got a big battery pack that's inside of here, so they need every inch that they can get inside of that. All right, so moving on, this is the latch, the main latch to break the bike in half upon that hinge. So coming on down, the crank here with the chain ring, which by the way, this is a 52 tooth chain ring, that comes down on these little supports right here. And these little supports are actually pretty much out of the way of the seat post coming down, because sometimes the seat post will come down and come into contact with part of the frame. But in this case, it goes all the way and you're totally fine. This could go all the way down to the ground if you wanted it to. Don't know if you would. But yeah, these are fairly standard issue 170 millimeter cranks on either side with a well-go folding pedal. These are pretty fun to do. Push them in, turn them around. It's only about maybe 2 inches of space, but this helps out a lot. Okay, and coming on down the chain, you do have a Shimano freewheel on here. This is a 16 to 32 tooth Shimano freewheel, and that has 8 gears on it, and the Shimano Altus is the derailleur. Got this steel derailleur guard, which normally I'm not typically a fan of the derailleur guard, but in this case for a folding bike, it actually comes in handy, because when you fold the bike up and toss it into a trunk, this actually protects you from doing some extra maintenance that you wouldn't have to without it. So I would definitely keep that on there. If you're on a mountain bike or something like that that you're not ever going to fold up, then yeah, I don't know why you'd have that. But continuing on, let's flip over to this side real quick. The set of brakes is mirrored from the front. You got a 180 in the rear as well as in the front. Same set of tires, of course. This is the motor. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but a couple more things to cover is the 40 millimeter mounts for the rear kickstand. And that's actually, in my opinion, a fairly optimal place for the kickstand, because it doesn't come into contact with the pedals. So you can push the bike backwards in the garage without the bike locking up on you or anything. One last thing to cover is a rather peculiar thing, and that's the seat and seat post. So the seat itself is actually pretty cool. It's like about 7 inches wide, has some gel, it's pretty comfy. It's a little bit wider, so you're probably not going to get super athletic with it, and that's okay. But the interesting thing is the seat post itself. Now the seat post itself is fairly wide. It's 33.9, but it has a plastic shim on the seat post itself. Now I can't speak as to the longevity of this plastic shim, but I do know that every other shim that I have ever seen to correct the seat post size, which it happens, every single other shim that I've ever seen has been made of metal. You could totally get one at a bike shop, so long as you know the measurements of what you're going to and what you're coming from, and you could just take it into the bike shop and they could help you out with it. But yeah, that plastic shim is a part of the bike, and I'm told that that is normal. So yeah, let's go ahead and lock that into position. Let's get into the electric system, because the electric system has some pretty cool things about it. So we'll start in the back with a 350 watt motor. This is a 350 watt motor that peaks at about 500 watts of power. And this is a motor from Shengyi. It's a good company. I've actually been there. They make some good stuff. I'm really impressed with the team over at Shengyi. Coming up to the middle of the bike, this is where they have the Cadence based pedal assist system. It's actually tucked into this little spot right in here. So that's pretty well hidden. It's not going to get in the way of anything, and it actuates pretty quickly. It engages fairly fast. So in the middle of the bike, I kind of told you a little bit about that. This spot is housing the 48 volt 13 amp hour battery right in there. I'll go ahead and turn the system on by pressing the M button for mode. That will turn on the display and show us a couple of things. This is a fairly common display. We've seen this before at EBR. It has a really nice display to it, in that it shows you the speed that you're going in miles per hour, your pedal assist level, a variable display that goes between odometer, a trip set, your voltage actually, current that you're going through, and also a timer, and then cycling back to the front. Your energy bar is up on the very top, and that's a fairly easy readout to understand. This is how much energy your battery has. But actually there's a pretty cool feature about this bike, and that's called the E-Pass technology. And let me tell you a little bit about that. All right, so the E-Pass technology is something that Eahora has been working on. It's actually on this bike. It is technology in which when the bike is moving faster than 14 miles an hour, and of course not throttling or anything, when it's going downhill 14 miles an hour, it will recapture some of the energy and put that back into the battery pack. And that is done automatically on the display so long as it is in 0. So you turn the pedal assist up to level 1, 2, 3, and then you go for fun. And then when you get to the downhill part, you scale it back down into level 0 on the display, And then so long as the bike is going faster than 14 miles an hour, it will start to recapture a little bit of that energy going downhill. Now, it's not exactly regenerative braking. I mean, it kind of behaves the same way, but it's not attached to the braking motion. It just does it on its own when it's going faster than 14 miles an hour. So it's not regenerative braking, and it's not pedal power. You're not pedaling in order to produce energy into the system. It's just kind of a more, I guess, latent feature that just kind of kicks in when it's ready and lets you go otherwise. Now, I've tried it out a few times here, but I don't have a big long descent to take it on. I've tried it out a little bit around the area trying to go downhill, and you can actually see the display. It changes from, you know, 0 watts, or sorry, 0 watts going out, and then it goes back to negative. So in this case, negative would be going back into the pack. So it'll show you on the display, you know, negative 100, negative 30 or so, and you can see that in real time kind of going back. I think that it would take a fair amount of time for that kind of wattage to really stack up, and unfortunately I don't have the time to test that out. I'd have to drive really far away, find a really big hill, and try to get it on camera in something that's a more compelling manner. So I think that if you have a steady commute, and especially if you have a commute where you go all the way up and then turn around and go all the way down, then I think you'd really start to notice a big difference. For the sake of EBR and for the test and the ride that we're going to be doing today, it's probably not going to make a huge difference because we have a limited amount of time. But that's the ePass technology. Let's go ahead and show you the rest of the electric system and get on the bike and show you that in action. Okay, so here's the display again, and this is the part right here on the bottom where it says odometer. That actually changes over when you get into 0 pedal assist and you're going faster than 14. This little bottom part will kind of change, and then it will show you the negative watts going back into the battery pack. So yeah, that's the display. If you want to change out some of the settings, actually press and hold the the up and down arrows on the remote attachment at the same time. Hold those for a couple of seconds, and then it will cycle through a couple of pages. So page 1, I'm not sure what these all change. You'll have to go through the manual if you want to figure out what they all do, but there's quite a few pages, about 20, 25 of them or so. And they have different metrics between voltage or wheel size or amp hours in the battery, so that the display is telling you the right information. I can tell you that page 21 is how much power pedal assist level 1 gives you. Page 22 is how much power that pedal assist level 2 gives you. Page 23 is how much power pedal assist level 3 gives you. And yeah, that's something that I've actually been resetting a few times here to try to get everything right. So that is the display. We kind of talked about pedal assist a little bit. This is the throttle, the little thumb throttle right here. Let's go ahead and turn it up. You twist that down and then the wheel starts moving. I think that's fairly clear to understand. And we'll put that down. One last thing before we jump into the battery pack and the folding mechanism is that it has an integrated front light. So this runs off of the main battery pack, which is pretty cool. You don't have to change out batteries or anything. And one particular thing I like about this, other than the metal mount, is that it has a disconnect. Right here is a very quick disconnect. So if you need to replace this little light, you can do so pretty easily without having to rewire the whole battery and everything like that. So let's go ahead and fold the bike up, and I'll also show you how to get the battery out. Okay. This. So it doesn't have a ton of the folding features like the latch that goes around the handlebars or the seat post that extends all the way down to support up the bike, but it's got just the right amount. It has that little brace on the bottom to protect the front chain ring. The handlebars kind of get out of the way. They don't rotate on the axis to move the brakes, the brake levers and everything, but it's still pretty close. So one thing I want to talk about on the battery is the battery removal, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. So the battery is tucked into this little spot right here. That's the battery pack, and the key for it is actually underneath. It's on the bottom side. So take your regular key, nothing too amazing about that. Kind of got to fish it in the right spot, and you got to do that by feeling, or perhaps turn the bike upside down, and then you unlock, see, there we go, unlock the battery pack. And then you got to pull the key out, otherwise the key will strike up against the bracing for the battery pack mount. It does have a little handle right here. Let's see, gloves are kind of tough. Let me pry that out. it does slide on its own, but there's a little itty bitty plastic handle right here, and then the battery will slide all the way out. And like I said, this is a pretty big battery pack. You can kind of get the size of this guy. 48 volts, 13 amp hours in this bad boy. So in my experience, it's a lot easier just to move the bike around. Maybe bring it in the house, put it underneath the desk or something, instead of taking the battery pack out, because that key position where the key is underneath the entire battery pack is not the easiest to get to. So I guess it could be a beneficial thing if you're worried about theft. You don't want anyone getting into that battery pack, then, you know, that's fine. But then again, the whole thing has wheels, so take that for what you will. But yeah, I've shown you the folding aspect, the mechanical side, the e-pass, the electrical. Let's go ahead and jump on the bike and take it for a spin. All right, so here we go on the Eahora Snow X6. And yeah, I got this in the position I do because I want to try to show you that e-pass technology when it kicks in. So that's going to be right here on the very bottom of the display. Right here it says 17 miles an hour. I'll try to choke in a little bit closer so you can see that. We'll kind of try to go up a little hill and then turn around and go back down that same hill again so you can see that kick in. So let's see, take a look out around here. Okay, so with the bike, I actually like to ride it with the seat all the way down and the handlebars fairly low to keep the weight of the whole package, myself included, kind of low. It makes it really easy to maneuver, which I like a lot. And on those 3-inch wide tires, it adds a lot of comfort too. With the maneuverability, you can get around stuff. It's pretty darn nimble, I would say. I definitely like the throttle. If you wanted to pedal along with this, if you wanted to use the pedal assist motion, it's a cadence-based system. So the cadence-based system is in general pretty easy going. It takes a little bit to kick in, but once you kick it in, it's pretty easy. All you got to do is just rotate the pedals, and then the electric system will kick in based on how much assistance you set the display for. So I can go ahead and do that a little bit. I like the Shimano Altus derailleur. I have that set on my personal bike, and I like it. I like it a lot for some fairly easygoing stuff. Probably wouldn't do a ton of like aggressive downhill, but then again, that's not really what this bike is made for. So, you know, it's pretty easy stuff. So let's go ahead and find a hill, and we'll see if we can get that e-pass to kick in for a second so I can show you what that looks like. I know the hill. Let's go ahead and turn the pedal assist down. We'll go down this frozen, steep, shaky hill one more time. Let's see what it does. Okay. Let's try to scoot forward a little bit so you can see this number right here. Okay, there we go. Fun stuff. I think that was fairly clear on there. So one thing I should mention is that it did slow me down quite a bit. I was going down the hill, and then as soon as that little guy kicked in, as soon as you saw it on the display, that's when I felt the bike kind of brake for me. And it's that energy recapture. It's not actually doing anything to the disc brakes. It's just using the motor as a generator and kind of reversing the polarity and putting that back into the battery pack. So that's why it slows down. Let me go ahead and try it on the pavement. Okay, here we go. It's putting back about 14 amps, 270. All right, about 200, 14 again. You know, here I am goofing around on the bike with this e-pass technology, but let's just jump in the snow. I forgot to mention, at least on the ride, I took this for a ride in the snow, and it was a lot of fun. I'll go ahead and put that footage over right now. I rode this in the snow, and it does just fine. I was a little apprehensive because the 3-inch wide tires are not like the normal 4-inch wide that I typically use in the snow, but having such a small and nimble bike, it worked out just fine. I was able to get my legs out for balance pretty easy. It was pretty fun. It was definitely a nice experience. I'll remember that for a long time. So this bike is fairly adaptable. Aside from the e-pass technology, you can ride it in quite a few different terrains. Road, as you see us doing primarily here, but also the grass, the snow, a little bit of sand, some dirt and mud. Be aware of the fenders, or lack thereof. But let's go ahead and switch the perspective a little bit, and we'll wrap this up. All right, so here we go on the Eahora Snow X6. I got you guys pointed down at the 52 tooth chainring. You can kind of see this part of the frame. I guess it's a seat stay. right down here, as well as a 350 watt motor. Got it cranked up into maximum pedal assist, which is actually level 3 on this bike. We're kind of in a climbing gear already, so we're just going to start from there. Let's boogie. That was a lot of fun, but honestly, once I laid on those brakes, I thought, man, these are some tight brakes. Great stuff. All right, guys, thanks for checking out the review of the Eahora Snow X6. It has been a lot of fun taking this out here on the road, kind of in a more easy environment, and also taking it out in the snow, what it's kind of made for. That was a whole lot of fun, gotta tell you. So if you want to check out the full specifications for this bike, including all the measurements and the weight and everything, as well as a very big pro-con list for the written review, go to ElectricBikeReview.com. While you're there, you can also check out the forums if you'd like to participate in the community and ask a question and hang out there. So thanks for watching, guys. Ride safe.